Hi, I just want to give a quick pretense that this is filmed for my economics class. I hope you guys enjoy. The difference between public and private utilities. What is it? There are two main forms of utilities, public and private. There is much controversy between the two, and which we should rely on. But to go over that, the two are incredibly different, so we first need to explain what the difference is. The differences between private businesses and public organizations are funding, ownership, and purpose. Let's get into it. A private business is just that, privately owned. The funding for a private business comes from its owners, clients, and investors. This means that the only way for the business to stay afloat is to get money from its clients and from its investors by keeping the business profitable. A public organization is typically owned by the government or a large public figure. They get their money from donations, taxes, and other charitable means. They need to do this because it's not generating money. It's a service that people are putting money into. There is a lot of disagreement on whether our utilities should be public or privatized. For one thing, when our utilities are public, there's a lot more publicity. This means that the funds are tracked, traceable, and transparent. When a company is private, it's much harder to learn about the inner mechanisms of the company. The company doesn't really have to tell you what's going on. Now, there are some consumer disclosures they must make, but the actual way that it's run is secret. They don't have to give more of their inside information. This means that things like confusion and deception can start to happen. Despite the fact that public organizations are much more clear than private businesses, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. There's also the topic about funding. Because public organizations must rely on taxing and donations very heavily, it means that the people paying for it aren't necessarily always the people using it the most. Whereas in a private business, people who are paying are clients. They're people who obviously want to use the service. People that don't want to use the service don't have to pay. Let's give, for example, a national park. Just this year, we had more than 300 million tourists visit the area. That's a majority of the population. So, everyone has to pay taxes for the national parks to stay open. Personally, both sides have good points. There are valid reasons to use private funding and public funding. Here's my solution. I believe that the government should make a rule or a mandate with some arbitrary number. For example, let's say 100,000. If 100,000 people or less are using the service, it should be private. With there being over 300 million people in the United States, we shouldn't be taxing them all to fund for something that small. KBZK reports that 3.3 million people per year visit Yosemite. That makes up more than our statistic. Thus, in that case, it would be public funding. Let's recap. Private and public funding both have really good uses. Though they don't apply to every situation, there are scenarios where one might apply better than the other. I'm Deem, and thanks for your time.